Welcome to Real Estate Coaching Radio, starring award-winning real estate coaches and #1 international best-selling authors, Tim and Julie Harris. This is the #1 daily radio show for realtors looking for a no BS, authentic, real-time coaching experience. What's really working in today's market, how to generate more leads, make more money, and have more time for what you love in your life. And now your hosts, Tim and Julie Harris.
All right, we are back, and as promised, we've got a fantastic podcast for you this week. It is your, as promised, 5-year plan. This is specifically what you should be doing year by year for the next 5 years. You will notice that this is designed to essentially build momentum in your career. You're not going to just, year one is designed to give you momentum into year 2, year 3, year 4. So all of these years overlap, and we've put this together in such a way that it's easily understood why one thing happens ahead of another. And you're also going to notice that this is a skills-based approach, but most importantly, what you're going to hopefully take away from our week's worth of shows is that what we're designing this plan for, what we're hoping you then implement this plan to do, is to create profit in your business. Profit, then you can reinvest that profit, and then you can create passive income, and you can become rich where your money works for you, and you no longer work for your money. Not a single one of you got into real estate for the plaques and the awards and the TikTok videos and all that pomp and circumstance. All of you, if you really get down to the essence of it, you got into business so you could be free. Freedom from really financial worries primarily. And yet you're not able to accomplish that. Well, we're going to help you peel back the layers of the onion to self-discover why it is that so many agents retire broke or never retire. And we're going to create a trajectory for you this week that will put you in a completely different place in 24, 36, and, let alone 60 months from now.
That's right. So this is a specific practical and tactical plan in order to meet or exceed your goals in your real estate career and ultimately in your life in 5 years or less. So those of you who like to take notes, this is your warning. Let's start with what we want for you as well as what we don't want for you. So we're going to give you our thoughts, but you can also take notes for yourself and ask yourself, what do I not want anymore and what do I want? So follow along with us as we get going on this. Let's start with what we don't want for you. Number one, we don't want you to be burned out, broken, and beholden to other people or companies controlling your success. As Tim often says, don't build your castle on someone else's land. Point number two, we don't want you to suffer cash spurts, lack of profitability, and uncertainty. And we don't want your families to feel that way either. Number three, we don't want you to kill your potential grinding away with buyers instead of listings. Now, that's going to change throughout our plan a little bit in the beginning. It's fine to be working with some buyers. You need the experience.
It's worth interjecting at that point. When you're new in the business or when you're ready to build massive momentum in your business, you say yes to everything. There's no such thing as a bad lead. There's no such thing as a bad opportunity. But there is essentially leads that are going to obviously be more valuable. So what you have to learn is to say yes all the time, and then you have to learn how to be very good at pre-qualifying so then you can sift and sort which ones you should be focusing on.
That's right. And you need the experience to learn how to tell the difference. So point number four, we don't want you to end the year with little savings and lots of stress. And that doesn't matter what year of real estate you're in. We don't want you to end the year with little savings and tons of stress. Number five, we don't want you to follow false prophets, gurus, or fake coaches. We talk about that a lot too. Point number six, we don't want you to have failure to launch syndrome. Or for some of you, we don't want you to have that anymore. Anything you'd like to add to that?
Well, it's the plane taking off analogy, right? And this is the thing that essentially plagues most people in their lives, not just their real estate businesses. Guys, visualize this, right? You're sitting on, actually, it's even before that. You are the pilot of the plane, right? And your job is to make sure the plane is ready to cruise to altitude to wherever the destination is supposed to be. So the plane has to get loaded. The plane has to have all the passengers in place. The plane has to have all the luggage, the gas, everything's basically taken care of as it's supposed to be. Your co-pilot is supposed to do all the pre-flight inspections. You've got to file your flight plan, all that Mickey Mouse of the getting ready to get started before you even pull the plane to the runway. You guys following me on all that? That is where most of you are at right now, and that is where most of you stay your entire careers until eventually you realize that plane's never taking off and you go off to something else. You're constantly in this chasing shiny object, getting ready to get started stage. That is the reason that the failure rate in real estate after 24 months, let alone 60, is staggering. So let's say you do taxi to the runway, and now you're cruising down the runway, And this is where things start to get, you have to use the most fuel. This is where it requires the most effort. This is where it requires the most sacrifice. The plane is loaded. You're ready to go. The plane is now running down the runway. You've got the throttle all the way pressed forward. You're pulling back on the yoke. The nose starts to lift off a little bit. The plane is shaking and shimmying. You guys know how it is when you're having a plane take off. It's when, it feels like the thing's going to shake itself apart. That's totally normal. And then what a lot of you are going to do, as soon as you get that front runway off the front gear off the runway, and as soon as all the shaking and shimmering, what most of you do is for some reason you stop, you pull back on the throttle, and then the front of the plane comes slamming back down again, and then you have to taxi back to the runway and you have to start all over again. Again, some of you move past the initial stages of failure to launch or getting ready to get started. Then you move on to the next phase, which is the runway, and then the same thing happens. You just decide to back off. Now, the third group of you actually say, darn it, I'm going to actually clear this runway. You get your plane up in the air. It's all the landing gears up. The landing gear has been retracted. It's in the plane. Everyone's, starting to feel comfortable. The ride is starting to smooth out. You're still having to use a lot of fuel. And then all of a sudden you get a call from Zillow and they offer to sell you 15 buyer leads,
Yep.
right? Or you basically get distracted because you go to some conference and someone says, oh, you just need to become the king of TikTok or whatever. And you're thinking, well, that's a hell of a lot easier than what Tim and Julie are telling me to do.
Yeah, sounds like fun.
Right. And then you stop doing what it was taking for you to actually start to build momentum to get to cruising altitude. And then guess what happens? The plane starts to lose altitude. The plane then has to go back to the runway, back to then where you started. And that is the cycle of most agents. Now, the successful amongst you push past the failure to launch. You push past the shaking and the shimmying and the self-doubt. You push past the temptations and the shiny object, all the people that are trying to sell you crap that doesn't work. And then you get to cruising altitude. Cruising altitude is where things get a hell of a lot easier. Cruising altitude, getting back to the plane analogy, is when the pilot pulls back on the throttle and things get much smoother. You can go to the bathroom. They're serving alcohol or whatever it is you do on a plane.
Amazingly.
Yeah. So then you're at cruising altitude. Now, once you're at cruising altitude, if you just do what you did to get there in the first place, thus the reason that this plan is designed to essentially year one is encapsulated by year two, year three, you can't stop doing what it took for you to get there in the first place. If you do, what's going to happen is the plane's going to lose altitude and you're going to have to start the whole thing again. Now, the cool thing is when you've developed the business maturity to keep the throttle consistently pegged on cruising altitude, at cruising altitude where you're not hitting any turbulence and things get smoother, if you choose to go to the next, like say you see storm clouds ahead, or if you're wanting to make things a little bit smoother, you can actually throttle up or put more gas fuel into it, and you can go to the next altitude. And we're going to show you how to do that too. Where most people fail in life is they never get off the runway, or as soon as they do, they crash right back to where they started. That's what you have to avoid in life with any new activity. You have to understand that everything worth having in life is going to require 10x more effort and takes 10x more time, and that sucks, but that just is the way it is.
Yeah, but it happens 10x times faster if you stop taking off and re-landing the plane and re-looking for the wrong airport and, having all this failure to launch. So what we do want for you, thank you for the airline analogy, because we'll be using that throughout our plan here. What we do want for you, number one, we want you to have a definitive plan to follow so you will have direction and won't have to guess at what to do to succeed. You won't be tempted by the guy selling leads, for example. Point number two, we want you to have goals in 5 areas of life to keep you inspired. Use your real estate treasure map to get serious about those goals. And you're going to do a new treasure map each year of your career, since both your skills and your goals are going to be changing. Point number three, we want you to be a powerful listing agent as early as possible in your career. Number four, we want you to invest in yourself first so that you can indeed be rich and free. And yes, you can do that in 5 years or less. Number five, we want you to build strong skills from the very beginning. Anything you want to add to that, or are we good?
Well, one of the things that would help them to understand this week's worth of podcast is if they have the treasure map that they're actually completing it. I was just checking to see what the CTA word was. I think it was Harris, wasn't it?
I believe so.
Yeah, text the word Harris to 47372, and Julie and I will text you back a link to download the real estate treasure map. The real estate treasure map is, if you haven't done it, I know a lot of you text it, you get it, and you actually don't print it off and complete it. You've got to do the work, but the real estate treasure map is the fundamental. It's you're filing your flight plan. That's what it is. The real estate treasure map is you saying where you are, where you're going to be, and when you're going to get there. I strongly encourage you to get that completed ASAP. It is 63 pages, most of which is reading and understanding, and I think maybe 20 of it is actually the actual plan. Get the plan done. Don't wimp out on it. It breaks my heart when I hear so many of you say, I started it, but I never finished it. Why did you stop? Well, it's because I started to get to the numbers section of it, and I felt overwhelmed. Push past the overwhelmed, because that's the same thing you felt when the landing gear was starting to come off the runway, and then you basically started to feel a little, shaking and shimmying, and then you pulled back the throttle and you have to restart again. You've got to get your treasure map done. It's fundamental in the essentially success of your business and your personal life. Text the word Harris. It's free, by the way. Text the word Harris, Harris, to 47372. Text the word Harris to 47372. Remember, message and data rates may apply.
That's right. And the treasure map is very personalized to you. And I think, Tim, sometimes when they start and stop on that, it is because they get to the financial part.
Yep.
Because where we start is, where are you today? How can you set goals financially or otherwise if you don't know where you stand today?
Right.
So it does have you do what's called My Financial Picture. Then it walks you through goal setting in 5 areas of life. We talk about lead generation and understanding the spokes in the wheel analogy. And ultimately, you end up with your ideal schedule. So it is highly personalized, and it should take you about a week. If you work on it an hour or two in the afternoon, it should take you about a week because it's so important.
So what we're now going to be doing is we're going to give you the assumptions that Julie and I created so that you can understand and you can adjust accordingly. We'll explain along the way. So here's what this is. I'm going to say this again, and this is exactly what many of you have been asking for or hoping to discover, I think. This is your exact year-by-year business plan and life plan. We're going to help you understand how many transactions you do per year, how much money you're going to create in gross revenue, how much money you're going to make in net profit, how much money you're going to essentially have as net profit, how much then you can reinvest, what you should be able to expect from the reinvestment, the passive income you should be able to create. You guys get it? This is the plan you've been looking for. And we're going to base this on facts. But here are the facts that we had to use so Julie and I could do the math consistently. And you have to adjust accordingly, and we'll help you do so. Number one, we're assuming that you live in a tax-free state. And if you don't, you're just going to need to adjust accordingly based on the taxes you pay in your state. Some of you don't pay any taxes. Most of you don't pay any taxes. Most of you don't pay any taxes until you start earning more than like $40,000 a year. And most of you, if let's say, 80% of you are new in real estate, you haven't, crested that income level yet. I think the average agent earns like $46,000 a year. So this is not a big consideration, but when we were doing our math for creating this 5-year plan, we assumed you were living in a tax-free state.
As in no state income tax.
Yeah.
And there's actually 9 states that are like that.
I know. Wyoming, Florida,
Alaska.
Texas, Delaware, Alaska. Okay, number 2 is your average sale price is $500,000. Now I know where you are might not be 500. It might be 5 million or a million, or it might be 5,000. I don't know. But according to the Fed, according to the St. Louis Fed, the median sale price was $423,000. That's median sale price at the end of January 2022. But the average was $496,000. And if you guys don't know the difference between median and average, you Google that. But the essence of it is we're going to use $496,000 as the average sale price. Now, the next thing we're going to assume is that you're an eXp Realty agent. And the reason that we're doing that is because then we had to have some consistent math to work off of when we were figuring out your broker splits. Like, for example, at eXp Realty, you pay $85 a month. You have a $16,000 cap. You're on 80/20 until you pay in your $16,000. After that, you're 100%. There's a transaction fee. But you have essentially... once you earn about a total GCI of $80,000, you'll have capped. You'll have paid in your $80,000. You'll have paid in your $16,000, right? So 20% of $80,000 is 16. So as soon as you pay in your 16, after that you're 100%. You guys get it? So if you have a $15,000 check come in, for example, and you're not yet capped, you're going to pay 20% of that to EXP, which is $3,000, right?
Yes.
And then so you're going to keep 12. And then after you a cap, then you're going to keep 100%, and then you're going to keep 15. These, I know I'm talking fast. If you guys want our notes, they're available on iTunes, Stitcher, Spotify, and of course our main website. But this is the gist of the assumptions that we're making with regards to your business. And one transaction, here's the part most of you will love. Well, all of you will love. Mm-hmm. One transaction per month using our plan, which you should be able to do your first year in business, or if you're returning to business, or if you're taking your business seriously, you should be able to earn, based on those parameters, $144,000. You should be able, if you do what we're suggesting you do, in the order in which we're suggesting you do it, you should be able to earn $144,000 your first year in business. Oh, I've never known anyone to do that. Well, there are thousands of agents that do
Yes.
that. Julie and I, back in the mid-90s, earned basically $297,500 our first year in the
Not
business.
that we don't remember that or anything.
Yeah, and by the way, our average sale price was not 500 grand.
No, you guys are so blessed. You don't even know it.
It was like 105.
Yeah.
We had to sell 103 houses to make the amount of money.
Yep.
So if you sell 12 houses, how many houses did you figure?
One per month.
One per month. 12 transactions per year.
And it's actually a bit better than that because I just figured the 20% across the 12 months after
It
you
is
cap.
better
It's a
than
little
that.
bit
So it's
better than
I
that.
know. You're assuming that they're
Yeah.
always on an 80-20.
Right.
And you weren't calculating in the fact that they're 100% after they've paid in their 16.
Yeah. So that's like the minimum.
Yeah. Realistically, if they do one per month, at EXP, for example, it's like 150.
Right, and you're probably going to do several of those 12 transactions that are more than 500,000 if you're in most major markets. So yes, you can adjust accordingly, but I think that this is fairly realistic math.
And don't say there's not deals to be had, guys. Last year was going to be very similar to this year in terms of transactional volume. 6 million transactions happened last year. That doesn't include new construction. So let's say there was 10 million transactions that happened last year. Now, on the resale side, there's two sides to every transaction. So on the resale side, there were 12 million transactions that happened. There are trillions of dollars that are passing along from real estate transactions. So if you're listening or tuning in or believing anyone telling you that there's lack of opportunity in the marketplace like this, I want you to think the exact opposite. When people say there's lack of opportunity, there's more opportunity. Because the people who are looking to never clear the runway, who get skittish and go back to where they started the second they hear any kind of rattling of their plane, when they hear that the business is harder, when they hear there's lack of this, and they hear that there's all these scary, horrible things, they quit, they stop. Which means when the market, when there's a heightened sense of fear, there's more opportunity because most people, when feeling fear, do nothing. So if you do the opposite of what they do, you'll make more money than they will, and you'll gobble up more market share than they will.
That's right, and there's something else that's baked in here that they don't necessarily appreciate yet. And that is the fact that when you take a listing right now, it is virtually guaranteed to sell very quickly. So in other markets, it would be harder to say, count on one listing closing every month, right? When markets are different, you might have to carry 10 to get 2 to close. So this is really a blessing and it's absolutely doable. Do you want to start on year one or do you want to?
No, let's go through some points. But really, you have to check yourself if you're believing that you are going to do anything less than 12 transactions per year in your first year. Do not allow anybody to tell you that's unrealistic. Do not allow anyone to tell you you have to do branding, do marketing. Do not let anyone dissuade you from what we're about to tell you that you must be doing the first year, because it is fundamental. If you do not follow the instructions, I apologize if I'm being too direct. I'm just trying to help you guys. I'm trying to make it so that you're not part of the masses of real estate agents that fail after 24 months. That's what our mission here is. That's an unfortunate truth. And why is that? Why do so many agents fail? It's because they fail to build the foundations. They never load their plane. They never load enough fuel. They never actually made sure all the passengers had their seatbelts on. They never kept the throttle down when they were trying to clear the end of the runway.
No flight plan.
They had no flight plan. You guys get it? They started without having fundamentals of what the hell they were doing. That's what this is designed to do. And there is real work associated. There are real skills that are going to have to be learned. This is not something that you can just do when you feel passion for it or do because it makes you feel good. Or this is real business training, real sales training, so you can make real profits so that one day you can be really financially free.
That's right. And you actually did most of part one for year one. Point number one is to accept the fact that it is absolutely realistic and you should expect to do 12 deals. Again, that's one per month. Part of that is you can't concentrate on, well, I just want to do more. That's not a plan. You've got to have something to concentrate on, a minimum of one per month. Your first year goal is 12 transactions. This is absolutely realistic when you follow a specific plan, focusing on building skills and leading with listings. Don't believe anyone who tells you otherwise. Just don't. You've got to have your goal.
And don't believe anyone that's telling you, oh, you're a new agent, you got to go work buyers. Oh, you're a new agent, you got to buy buyer leads. Oh, you're a new agent, you got to go work on a team and buy buyer leads. Don't do it. You'll just be real estate roadkill. Focus. Look, first year in the business, you say yes to everything. And then once you have said yes to enough things, you learn how to pre-qualify, then you're going to start picking the apples from the tree that are really actually going to work out for you. But definitely have your mind geared towards becoming a listing agent. Don't believe you have to wait to become a listing agent. Don't believe you have to wait to implement this plan. The longer you wait, the higher likelihood of failure. And this is just the stone cold truth.
That's right. Point number two. Skills you must acquire. Those of you taking notes, this is a really important point. skills you must acquire, everything to do with lead generation, lead follow-up, pre-qualifying, presenting, negotiating, and closing. These are the things that make you money in real estate. If it's not on that list, stop screwing around with it. You must have your pre-listing package, your listing presentation, and your buyer presentation completed and build your confidence using each appointment by appointment. Your job is to earn while you learn. You don't have to perfect all of this, but you do have to get it done and understand it. So this is why a lot of people, one of the first things they do after they get licensed is join Premier Coaching, so that it's fine. You can, it's one thing to have a pre-listing package. It's another one to have one that's proven, that has scripts that go along with it that help you win every single time. Make sense?
Yep.
Okay, point number 3, we've talked about a bit, but again, expectations. And if your expectations don't fit into this, you might need to make a change. Some of you listening haven't chosen a broker yet, and that's okay. This is what your math should look like.
Which, by the way, if you've not chosen a broker yet, all this math is predicated on you being at a brokerage that is going to have a $16,000 cap. Remember, we told you that. If you guys are looking for a brokerage that's going to be supportive long-term and not just helping you make more money from your transactions, but helping you create more sources of income, please do consider joining Julie and I at eXp Realty. We'd love to be your sponsors. We are proudly associated with eXp Realty. It's one of the best business decisions we've ever made. If you're ready to join eXp and you're looking for a sponsor that's going to be proactive in your success, Julie and I are formally applying for the job. Text me directly at 512-758-0206, 512-758-0206.
Yes, so third point today, and then we're going to wrap. Revenue to expect, okay? And this, again, goes back to choosing your broker, knowing your expenses. This is what you should expect realistically your first year. Gross commission income, minimum standard, $144,000. Again, based on an average sale price of $500,000. That's a real average sale price in the country. Gross commission of $15,000 minus 20% in fees equals $12,000 net times 12 months gets you to that $144,000. Now, you might be an existing agent where your math looks a little bit differently. How do you find out your own average sale price? Well, you add up all of the deals that you did in the past 12 to 24 months, however long you've been doing transactions, divide by that number. It'll give you your personal average. You can figure out your expenses, and then you can do your own projections. This is one of the things that the treasure map gets them to do.
Now, we're going to give you this point number 4. Julie, just read that and then we can wrap.
Okay, point number 4. Your listing goal is to have 2 listings at all times, assuming average days on the market are 30 or less where you're currently selling. Most of the country is 20 days or less right now. Currently, so adjust appropriately. Remember, the longer the days on the market, the more active listings you need to count on 1 closing per month. So I have assigned them 2 per month because what we want to get going here is the overlap of closings.
For sure.
Right? So if you had 1 per month and let's say that you're following this plan, you got that together, you took your listing, you got it in contract. What if it doesn't close for 60 days? Now you're skipping a month of income. We don't want that to happen. So you've got to have 2 listings at all times. Minimum standard to ensure that you are closing 1 per month. Does that make sense? If you think trajectory of time.
And also, I know some of you are thinking, listings, what am I supposed to do to get listings? That's what our coaching program is all about.
Yes.
We teach you how to really build a real estate business that's very scalable. But our primary focus is having you build a real estate business that's very scalable, predicated on you being a listing agent. Because with listings, you have leverage. If you want to know the agents that are going to, essentially have premature aging this year, it's going to be the ones that are mostly focused on working with buyers.
For sure.
Focus on listings. There are thousands, millions of listing opportunities that happen every single day across the United States. Yes, they're harder to find. That's the reason you need to get skilled. Remember, guys, think the opposite of what everyone's telling you. If they're saying there's few listings, but statistically there's so many houses that are selling per year, each one of those must have been a listing agent getting a commission. Why is it that you're not getting those? Well, it's because you don't know where to look. You don't know what to say. You don't know how to win the listing. That's the bottom line. It's a skill set. Now, some of you are thinking, because you've never known any different, you got to go out and buy your business. Buying business your first year in business is fine. We don't care where your money comes from. Just get the cash flowing and you'll have experiences from that. But just stick to the plan. Your first year in business is about doing what you don't want to do when you don't want to do it at the highest level, amplified, basically.
For sure. But doing it, getting help so that you actually can shorten that learning curve. I mean, just if you take just the pre-listing package alone, that can really boost their confidence, and it gets them so they want to make calls, they want to pre-qualify, they want to go on listing appointments, versus secretly avoiding it because you kind of know you're going to be thrown an objection that you don't understand or you can't handle, or maybe you're afraid to close. you've got to get those basic skills going so that you can get the experience to build the confidence.
So coaching program, guys, many of you, thank you, are joining Premier Coaching. Premier Coaching is Julie and I's life work. And if you're ready to join Premier Coaching, we're ready for you. You will receive a daily semi-private coaching call with one of our Harris certified coaches. You get our complete system, all the checklists, all the scripts, everything you can possibly use in your real estate business. Just text the word Premier, Premier, to 47372. Text the word Premier to 47372, and that'll take you right to the page where you can join Premier Coaching for as little as $100 a month, depending on how you choose to join. So text the word Premier to 47372. Remember, message and data rates may apply. Our notes from today's pod are going to be on timandjulieharris.com. They're going to be hopefully on iTunes and Stitcher and Spotify and all the other places. Guys, we're really enjoying this topic. We're really enjoying the motivation that you guys gave us to present this topic. I'm really looking forward in the future to having people come up to us and say, I followed that 5-year plan and it really worked out.
That's right. It might even work out faster for you.
Yeah, well, it will if you take this seriously. Mm-hmm. Just don't have false starts, guys. That's the main thing. You got to load the plane. You got to get the plane up to altitude as fast as you can, no matter how much shaking and shimmying it does, no matter how much bad news, interest rates, politics, whatever's happening here, whatever's happening there, you keep that throttle down, you get up to cruising altitude. That is your challenge. That's everyone's challenge. When things get hard, know you're on the right path, because that's where you're going to discover the higher you ascend, the less competition you have, because this is counterintuitive, I know, but the more successful you become, it's not more competitive, it's less competitive. It's actually easier, because most people have given up by the time you've gotten to, when you get to 30,000 feet in your jet. Most people would never even have cleared the runway, let alone even cleared the runway for any meaningful amount of time. You've cruised up to cruising altitude, everything gets easier. That's when things go on autopilot, which creates its own problems too. But in the meantime, you guys have a fantastic day. Please continue to like and subscribe to this podcast. If you're listening to us on iTunes, please give us a 5-star review and some nice comments. If you're listening on YouTube, please do subscribe and give us some nice comments. We certainly appreciate your continued support. Thank you for keeping this the #1 listened to daily podcast for real estate professionals in the United States. Have a fantastic day. We'll talk with you on the show tomorrow.
This podcast is a part of the C-Suite Radio Network. For more top business podcasts, visit c-suiteradio.com.